We are 22 West Radio. 22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 88.1 FM KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. Yes, the weekly show where I bring you a new guest every week and have them share their story. So at this time, I'd like my guest to please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Irma Gorrocino, and I am a senior field representative and caseworker for Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. I have been working in public service for close to about 4 years, and I'm honored to be here today. Thanks so much for inviting me, Rob.
Perfect. So what I like to do is when I have my guests is, start off first with K-12. What was K-12 like? What was life growing up like?
Okay, well, life growing up for me was interesting. It was a bit of a challenge. I grew up in Boyle Heights to an immigrant father from Mexico and a second generation mom. And my mother worked in education and my father worked in public service as well. He worked for a local sheriff's department. And for us, it was pretty tough growing up at first. My parents weren't completely stable, economically, financially stable. And so I attended school in the inner city in Boyle Heights for about close to 3 years. And at this time, it was around like the peak of the 90s sort of crime that escalated around the Rodney King era. And so for me, it was a little bit of trauma that I encountered, whether it was gunshots being thrown or shot late at night, not being able to sleep, difficulty at school, sort of being able to focus in the classroom. That was always very challenging. And thankfully, by the luck of my grandparents, we were able to move out into a house in East Los Angeles where I lived for almost 10 years. And I grew up going to school in Alhambra, which was a neighboring city close to East LA. And I went to school there because it was a safer environment. It was more academically challenging. It was something that my mom felt that I would get a better education through a school, an independent school system rather than through LA Unified. And so I went to school there for a while, and then shortly after, I transitioned into a four-year university, and I attended Cal State University Northridge in the San Fernando Valley. I'm the first in my family to go to college, and for me, we like to say in Spanish that it's un orgullo. It's an honor. It's a pride that I feel to sort of be able to break the glass ceiling for my family and be the first in my family to attend college, and it was through that experience, through those 4 years, that I was able to sort of find my passion, my likings towards things, and sort of finding where I wanted to go in life. And for me, it was public service. It started off with me wanting to pursue journalism. I wanted to be a broadcast journalist, and I interned for Channel 5, for KTLA 5, the local news channel here. And it wasn't very rewarding. I was waking up at 5 a.m. I wouldn't be done till around almost 12 in the afternoon, and it was a constant grind every single day. It was going to school full time and completing my internship. And for me, it became overwhelming, and I just realized that it was very superficial, and it wasn't something that I thoroughly enjoyed and felt that I was, there was any reward in what I was doing. And so a little bit, some months went by, and I realized, well, what is there out there that would be fulfilling for me? And so one of the things that I've always done around the Thanksgiving holiday is pass out peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to those on Skid Row. And for me, that's always been something fulfilling that I've been able to do with my family. And so I realized that I wanted a career that was going to be rewarding in that same way. And I found it in public service. I interned for my local member of Congress. She was the first Latina ever elected to Congress. And it was an honor to be able to work in her office, to be able to help constituents who don't necessarily, understand the government function or system, and to be able to almost hold someone's hand and walk them through, whether it's getting them help with their Social Security benefits, or a DACA recipient who's trying to renew their application and they haven't heard back from USCIS. It's been sort of that realm of work that I have found very rewarding, and which is what has led me to pursue my career today. So that's sort of been my upbringing. Obviously, I've had my challenges, whether it's been through my primary grade school age or even through college. It's definitely been one hell of an experience for me.
So going back to the high school and stuff, when you were having to move, were you sad though, leaving your peers, your friends?
I was, because it was a community. See, where I grew up off of Olympic and Soto in Boyle Heights, and the apartment complex where I lived, we were all first gen, youth of immigrant parents, sort of having to navigate whether it was school or just, defining an everyday routine. And sort of being each other's company and community, whether it was, a neighbor whose brother died due to gang violence. It was always something very interesting to sort of see that dynamic amongst us. And next door to me, there were housing projects. There the known Estrada courts, and they're they're a historic monument to that community. Whether it's been through the Chicano movement or if it's been during like the early 90s, it's always been this fostering just community that's always thrived given the diversity, the adversity, and so that's something I think that I've been able to always take with me, and I'll never forget. That's the place that my dad first called home when he first immigrated here to the U.S., and it'll always be home. And I've always made it a point for myself to be able to give back in one way or another, because it was a community that thrived, that gave me so much, in being able to achieve my successes today.
And growing up in society lately, we hear the emphasis about how, it's important to speak, multiple languages. What was life growing up? Were your parents kind of people that would say, oh, like, just speak Spanish at home or something like that?
It wasn't just speak Spanish at home, it was speak both, because even though my dad, first language is Spanish, he made a distinct effort to speak English as well. And even if he didn't know his English all that well, he would still read us bedtime stories in English. And those are some of the most treasurable moments that I have about my upbringing, because it showed my dad's want and ability and desire to relate to us, to my sister and I, in our newly found native language, which was, we were being integrated to speak English, but it's always been a mix of both, and my parents have always made it a point for us to understand that we have two backgrounds. We don't just have one history, we have two. We're Mexican and we're American, and I think that's been probably one of the most beautiful things that my parents have both been able to give my sister and I, is the beauty of being able to be bilingual, to be able to speak Spanglish, to be able to speak Spanish, and to be able to speak English.
Now, do you recall your early memories, like when you were little, and were you aware of like the kind of careers that they had and stuff?
I wasn't. I knew that I wanted to go to college. That was something that was embedded in me early on, because my mom worked in education. She later on became a school nurse, but started off as a teacher's assistant when I was growing up. And it was really interesting to know early on that my mom would always tell me and my sister that we were going to go to college. And that was always something heavily embedded in us. In the 6th grade, I remember doing my homework at my little desk, and I had a poster that said how to get to college. And every year I would always read what I was supposed to be doing in whatever expected grade level. 7th grade, I was already supposed to be taking, pre-algebra, and by freshman year, I needed to be taking biology so that I was on track to go to college. So for me, it was always embedded early on. We never really had family. I mean, we had family friends that were going to school, that had obtained a degree, but not someone immediate that would be able to kind of help me and do any hand-holding when I was going through my college application process. So it was always, the goal to be able to go to college, but it was just a matter of myself sort of paving the way for my family and being able to know what to do, and just having that support from my family as needed.
Oftentimes people say that senior year is the most stressful. What was it like for you, and were you involved in any activities on campus?
I was. It definitely was a stressful time. I remember my high school teachers would always emphasize that college was going to be harder than high school. And that always traumatized me. It was always like a fear, like, oh my God, like college is going to be even harder. Like I didn't really know what to expect. But I just knew that it was going to be hard. But luckily I was in a program in high school. It was called AVID. Something individual via determination. And it was a program geared towards first generation low income students who were on track to go to college, or who weren't maybe necessarily on track but had the potential to go to a four-year university. And it was through that program, I think, that really helped enlighten me and sort of guided me with understanding, oh wow, look, it's December, you need to fill out your FAFSA. It's almost October, you need to submit your Cal State applications, or it's already November, are you working on your personal statement for the UC schools? So it was always, there was always some type of guidance with that program. We got to visit various community colleges, four-year schools, private universities. We got to go to various conferences to sort of, open up our eyes and help us understand that, we're going to be the first in our families to do this, and this is something that, we need to understand and know what to do before we get there. So I'm forever grateful to that program and to my peers that were able to help me get to a four-year school. And it's unfortunate because now in that school district, that program no longer exists. So I'm curious to know what that retention or what that rate looks like amongst minority first-generation students wanting to pursue a four-year education, knowing that there isn't that immediate resource in our local high school, at my local high school anymore.
So as senior year was wrapping up, how did you reach the decision of, what school do you want to go to? What major do you want? Stuff like that.
School was always very hard for me. It was later on in life that I realized I had anxiety. And I didn't know in high school what exactly was wrong with me or what I had wrong when it came to me, just being overwhelmed when I was taking a test, or if I was, taking a quiz or whatever it might have been, speaking in front of individuals in class during a presentation. For me, that was always a challenge, and so my grades really reflected that. And when I graduated high school, I only had about a 2.5 GPA. And I realized that I wasn't going to be eligible to go to a UC. And the only thing in my path, or the only opportunity available to me, was to go to Cal State. And I easily settled with Cal State Northridge because I had the chance to tour the campus with my my AVID program. And I fell in love with the school, and I saw that my SAT scores and my GPA scores were eligible to, I reached the eligibility requirement to go to that school. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to go to Northridge because I knew that there was a really great journalism program, and also, I would be able to fulfill the requirement to get accepted into the school. And so that's, that was sort of my path and what I decided to do.
Midterms and finals can sometimes, for most students, be considered the most stressful time. How did you deal with midterms and finals, and some strategies to succeed?
Yeah, no, I know. I just want to give a shout out to all the Cal State Long Beach students. I know that it's finals week, and all I have to say is, échale ganas, put in as much effort as you can. Whether it's drinking an extra cup of coffee or staying up a little bit longer or utilizing your library to study a few hours more. Don't cram, don't overthink it too much. Take some time to self-care, whether it's getting in an extra hour of sleep or eating a hearty breakfast in the morning. I just want to tell all the students out there that no matter how difficult a class may be, it's never the worst scenario. It's never the best scenario either. It's embrace it, enjoy the moment while you can, because once you get into the real world, you're gonna miss those moments. As odd as that sounds, I definitely miss being in school. I miss sort of that stress or just that fun I would have in like a lecture hall studying with my friends. But just embrace it, work through it, persevere, and work hard.
And books can be expensive. Did you have to work also at the same time?
Yes, I did. My junior year of college, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 multiple myeloma, bone marrow or bone cancer. And for me, that took a real hard hit economically on my family and myself. Even though I worked, I depended on the support from my parents in many ways. And when my father was no longer working, it really changed sort of my plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue my education. I didn't know if I was going to have to quit that semester or just give school up all in its entire, just completely. So for me, it was working 3 jobs full time and just making it work as best as I could, as best as my mom was there to support me too. And so that really caused a lot of challenges for me. And textbooks, I remember going on this website called Chego or Chegg, I believe. And so I would rent textbooks. And if I wasn't renting a textbook, I was making photocopies of the textbook at the library. Or I was asking that professor, hey, can I borrow your book so I can make copies? Because I don't have the luxury to buy the textbook. And if I did, it was because it was like that special edition that the professor required for his class or her class specifically. But it was definitely a challenge working full-time and going to school full-time. But at the end of the day, I made it work, and it was that sacrifice and that, just that willingness to just work hard and do as best as I could, despite my challenges. I think that's what made my academic experience that much more worth it.
Tell us about the jobs you have.
The jobs I had, I worked at American Apparel. I was a merchandiser, and I also worked, I worked as a teacher's assistant at a school in East LA, and then I also worked as a lifeguard. So I had those 3 jobs, and they paid fairly well. I didn't make minimum wage, so I was okay. But with my retail job, that was minimum wage, and that was pretty exhausting. But just working 3 jobs alone, it was definitely overwhelming. And so I commend any student that is able to work full-time and go to school full-time, because I know that it's not easy.
Some students, they usually go to class and then they go straight home. But did you have the opportunity to also take part in activities at your university?
I did. One of the really great things that I was able to do was I participated in the university's ambassador program. And what that was it was a group of students who were trained to provide tours to either potential or prospective students or just visitors. And then we would also participate with volunteering at community events that our USU would put on. And so I got to give tours to students and sort of give them a glimpse of what our campus was like. And I think for me that was a really amazing experience, not only because I got priority registration, but also because I got to understand my university a lot more, and became really close to a lot of the students that participated in the program with me. And I think for me that was probably one of the most rewarding experiences that I've been able to have, whether it's been giving a tour to foreign students that are foreign or studying abroad here in the States, or if it's been a student who knows ASL, American Sign Language. I've been able to see students of all different backgrounds and be able to sort of welcome them and give them a glimpse of my school. I think for me that was I really enjoyed that experience. And for any student out there that's wanting to get involved, I think that's probably one of the best options. Not only because you become familiar with your university and the resources that are available, but you also get to welcome individuals and sort of show them around your school and be able to guide them if needed.
Tell us about the journalism classes, or how you made the switch.
Well, for me, I was a journalism major. I was studying broadcast journalism, and I was minoring in urban planning. And so that sort of dynamic was really interesting. I always knew I wanted to get into politics. And for me, it was it was interesting to see, well, what could I do with journalism that would go hand in hand with urban planning and sort of understanding local government and zoning regulations and planning a city and like different theories that are involved with urban planning as well. Sort of knowing that dynamic, whether it was like the public relations, the writing element, and knowing like the legislative theory that goes behind something, I think bringing those two together was sort of what really intrigued me and sort of helped build what I wanted to pursue in undergrad.
And did it take time to pick the minor, or what happened?
I kind of just fell into it because it seemed like there was a need for students to go into urban planning at my university. There weren't many women of color, and so it was interesting to see that I was maybe one of two women in my classes. Majority were all civil engineering majors, or they were studying architecture. And I just so happened to take an elective, and I loved the class that I had took. It was on the history of Los Angeles, and it was just learning and understanding just the history of how LA came to be, and learning things like urban sprawl and why there were so many different cities, and why LA was so large at such an early time, at such a trying time in the 1920s, 1940s, why the city became so big. It was something that really intrigued me, and I wanted to understand that a little bit more and get more into the weeds in that field. And so I was able to pursue that by just falling into this elective class that I took.
How about your parents' reaction to the majors you decided on and stuff?
My dad wasn't too thrilled. My mom was supportive and she was really happy for me, but my dad wanted me to get into a field and study something that was going to help me make money right away out of graduating from a 4-year school. He wanted me to pursue engineering. He wanted me to pursue nursing. He wanted me to become a dentist, something in the science field that was going to immediately help me make a lot of money. And I think part of that was because of his experience with his illness, where he got to see, nurses and doctors and sort of understand how they would, take care of him and help treat his illness. And so he would always tell me, you should go into nursing. I don't know why you're trying to pursue this journalism stuff or this urban planning mumbo jumbo. What is this? Like, it's not going to help you in the long run. You should really consider getting into the sciences and become a doctor, become a nurse. And for me, it was always a challenge because I could never really make him see my perspective. And I felt like at some point he was never really pleased or happy with me and what I wanted to pursue. But I think where I am now, he understands and is very happy and is proud to know that whatever it was that I studied, at the end of the day I was able to complete my education, and it's been one of those things where I've just had to work through it and sort of show my dad and to my mom too that whatever it might have been, whatever it was I decided to study, it didn't matter, because I would still come out with some type of career or job that I would enjoy.
Tell us about the importance of mentors, and did you have any growing up and through life as a student?
Yeah, I think mentors are really, really important. I think finding someone who is working in a field that you want to pursue, who maybe has a similar background or similar narrative as you, I think that really defines a great mentor, someone who's willing to take the time to talk to you, to sort of guide you with any challenges that you may have along the way. I think mentors are extremely important, especially when you're, in undergrad trying to figure out, well, what the heck is next? What am I going to do once I finish? Am I going to take some time off? Am I going to jump into graduate school right away? Where or what is it that what do I want to pursue immediately after I'm done with my 4 years of college? I think being able to have somebody who's already gone through that experience and sort of have them be a support and a guide, I think is very important. And I've been able to have a few currently and previously in undergrad as well. I will never forget my internship when I was at Channel 5. I had a Latina news reporter that I really admired, and I wanted to sort of know her story and how she came into the field of broadcast journalism. And it was, with her experience and with, in talking to her and getting her advice, that I was able to see, this isn't for me. I admire individuals who can work in this realm, but at the end of the day, this work wasn't fulfilling for me. But it's interesting now because in my current realm of work, there is the element of, the journalism or the public relations that I studied that I implement. And so it's been really exciting for me to be able to sort of utilize my degree now, even though it wasn't in the exact field that I wanted to pursue initially. It was through the help of my mentor that I was able to see, I can build up myself and work in a different realm and still be able to utilize the skill set that I'm learning now in my undergrad.
So what happened after graduating with the BA?
I left. I wanted to pursue teaching. Working in the classroom was something that I really loved when I was a teacher's assistant, and I wanted to pursue teaching. I didn't know how I was going to go about it, but I knew that I had to figure something out, and it was through family friends who were teachers that I was able to talk to, and they shared with me sort of, the steps that I had to take in order to pursue getting a credential. And so what I decided to do was, with the help of a friend, there was a program in San Francisco through a nonprofit, and their focus was on education and summer programming in the San Francisco Bay Area. But it was with students of lower socioeconomic status who lived in the Bay Area, and the idea was to encourage them to get into extracurricular activities and sort of help enlighten them in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the STEM field. And so I was able to work in San Francisco in the Mission District. I taught there for a few months in the summer, and I enjoyed my experience. It was amazing to be able to give back to these students and at the same time be given back so much, because I learned more than I ever thought possible in the classroom, whether it was me building my lesson plans, whether it was, supervising the students during their recess hour, or just sharing my experiences as a first-gen college student. It was just overwhelming with the amount of support and willingness that these students had to hear my story, to learn from them, and then, at the same time, the students learned from me as well. And so I really loved that experience. I think after that time, I really solidified my want to pursue teaching, and I decided to take the CBEST, which is the basic test that you take to become either a substitute teacher or to get into a credential program. And so I decided to do that, and I don't know, I think I had a change. It's studying for that exam and sort of thinking about it. I passed the exam, but I think there was something more that I wanted, and I wasn't sure if getting into a routine for many years of teaching, I didn't know if that was something that I genuinely wanted for a long time. And it sort of changed my understanding of what I really wanted to do. And so for a little while, once I came back from San Francisco, I took some time off. I was working my part-time as a lifeguard for a little bit. And then from there, I decided, well, what about community work? What is it about my community that I want to do in order to be able to support them? Because there was that element when I was teaching in San Francisco that I really got in touch with, and I wanted to be able to sort of understand that dynamic a little bit more. And then through my experience with my internship with the Congresswoman at the time in undergrad, it's sort of, there was still that thought in the back of my mind that there was maybe a chance or a way for me to pursue that. And so I took a chance on it. I came across an opportunity to work for the League of United Latin American Citizens, which is one of the oldest civil rights organizations that advocates for the needs of the Latino population here in the U.S. And I worked as a community organizer, and my work focused specifically around the Affordable Care Act and getting individuals to enroll in our exchange, our state's health exchange. And it was, going to community events, organizing health fairs, promoting the event through, social media posts, going to do radio interviews. I got more immersed in that work, and I realized that was something that I wanted to pursue, and that's sort of what led me to where I am now. But I think it was just being able to, like I've said before, just sort of help individuals navigate a complicated system like healthcare, especially to those who don't necessarily speak the language. I think for me was something that was really rewarding, and I just think that being able to work for an organization like LULAC, it really helped understand my ideals and the work that I wanted to continue pursuing. So maybe it wasn't necessarily the idea of being in a classroom where I actually got to teach students, but it was more so teaching a community as a whole. And I think for me that was something that I wanted to sort of own and build up a little bit more, and I was able to do that.
I guess sometimes we get scared about the amount that education is worth. Like, I hear that, if you want to go beyond a BA, it's not covered. Like, how did you do it?
Well, now I just was accepted recently to graduate school, and it was definitely something that I, grappled with. I had a really tough time figuring out how I was going to pay for school, where I was going to go, why was I going to be going back to school, and those are really important questions to ask when you're in that mindset of getting ready to want to go to graduate school. I think at the end of the day, you do what works for you. Everybody's different. Everybody, chooses to go to a private university versus a public university. People choose to pay, $100,000 on tuition versus $30,000. So everybody just sort of has their own preferences. And for me, my preference was to go to a Cal State for my master's. Not only because it was economical for me, but it was also a convenience because I could easily drive after work and know that I could go to my school immediately after school, and it wasn't sitting in traffic or having to log in on a computer and wait for my class online and wait for my instructor to upload material that we would have to read. No, for me, I think it's whatever works in your best ability. If you want to incur that debt, that's, if you feel that it's an opportunity that school is going to give you the network, the prestige, and the ability to get a really great job when you finish your graduate program, great. If it's, something that you just want to get done because your employer is pushing you to do it, so be it. Everybody has their preferences. For me, I kind of was back and forth with trying to apply to go to USC. Then when I found out the cost of a unit at a private university like USC versus the cost of a unit at a Cal State for a master's program, I made my choice because for me it was what was economical. I wasn't going to pay over $300 for one unit at USC when I could pay I could get that same course at a cheaper price at a 4-year public school. So for me, I think that's sort of how I've made my decision. Everybody goes about making their decisions differently, and I don't condone anyone. I just, for me, I have my preference and other individuals have theirs too.
And I hear there's like a loan forgiveness program?
Yeah, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with this tax reform bill. I want to know, is that still going to be in place, or is this administration going to get rid of it? And I fear, I don't know what's going to happen, and I hope that, within those 10 years, because I'm on that track towards student loan forgiveness, I hope that it remains and that, at some point I'll be able to get my student loans forgiven. But in the meantime, it's a waiting game. And I really don't know what will happen, but I hope that, sooner or later, it'll stay, and this administration will understand the importance of this type of program.
So tell us about how you got to where you are today.
So I grew up swimming and playing water polo in the City of Commerce, and it was through that group of teammates that I, grew up with shortly after moving out of Boyle Heights. And with that group, we grew up and we became family. It was one of those experiences where we would spend weekends together, whether it was at swim meets or games, traveling together as well. And, we became very tight-knit. And it was through the help of one of the girls that I swam with, who was able to help me get into the role that I'm in now. I was looking for a job. I had been almost 2 years sort of just trying to figure things out. The gig that I had as a community organizer was on and off. It wasn't stable. It was a seasonal job that would come around, once every so many months. So it wasn't a stable job. And so I just threw it out on Facebook. I'm like, I didn't want to throw my business out on social media, but I was desperate. I needed a job. I needed to start making my student loan payments. And so I threw it out there, and my friend responded, and she's like, hey, this congressional office is hiring for a field representative. They want someone who's familiar with some of the southeast cities here in Los Angeles County. Do you think it'd be something you'd be interested in? And so I looked at the posting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be a really great opportunity for me. And I pursued it, and now I've been working for the member. I worked for the member briefly for 2 years, and I left to work as a policy analyst for the Los Angeles Homeless Services Agency, and now I'm back with the member as a senior staff. And my goal was to be able to come back on board with her, and pursue my master's. And now it's unreal to think that I've been able to come back, and I'm on track to pursue what I wanted to do. And I'm just, it's nice. It's I don't always, you always plan things, but things don't always go according to plan. And for me, it's been able to work out, and I've been able to sort of be on that track. And I'm just hoping that, I'll be able to complete my education and pursue other endeavors once I'm done with my education.
So for those who are familiar with what a field representative is, tell us about it.
So you're the liaison for the member, your federal representative. You liaison between the federal government and your community. Whether it's, helping someone with post office issue that they're having, maybe they're not receiving their mail, or if it's helping a local city obtain federal resources or funding that they may need. You sort of serve as the intermediary between the federal government and your local community that the member represents. It's interesting to know how many individuals aren't familiar with their government. A lot of people don't know who their member of Congress is. A lot of people don't know who their U.S. Senator is. A lot of people don't even know who their own mayor is. And that's really frustrating, because you want to be able to support people. You want to be able to advocate and help people navigate, complex bureaucracies. And when people don't have the basic understanding of something like that, it can be challenging to sort of handhold someone and walk them through, well, this is what this individual does, and what does your office do? And so just being able to help individuals sort of navigate the complex bureaucratic system, that's what I do. And it's very rewarding. I've been able to help individuals get, disability back pay from Social Security. I've been able to help a local community clinic obtain federally qualified healthcare or health clinic status. I've been able to help our local school district, that neighboring school district close to where I grew up, get funding through a local community clinic, and there's just so many realms of work that I've been able to get involved in, and it's very rewarding. And I really enjoy the work that I do. It's maybe not a long-term career, but it's definitely something that opens many doors of opportunities for individuals who want to go into public service.
How about the quiet people, the shy people? How can they get involved in stuff?
You know, I tell everyone that the best way to, whether you're, quiet, loud, rebellious, whatever it might be, it's always important to voice your concern and voice your opinion, especially in these times. With the rescinding of DACA, we received a large amount of calls of students, of community members who, are urging and are adamant about the member that I work for supporting a really important piece of legislation that means so much to individuals. And it's sad to know that things like this are being reconsidered. It's frustrating more than anything. And when you don't agree with something, it's really important to share your concern, whether it's over the phone, whether it's via email, or posting something, on your social media and sort of hashtagging something to show solidarity, whether it's with, our community. It's one of those where we can't be quiet. We need to be vocal. We need to be adamant about expressing our frustrations, our concerns. And people don't think that, by calling your member, it makes a big difference. But every call is very important because, we want to know what does the community feel about this. If they're not calling, it means that people don't care. And so I think whether it's that shy individual or that really loud person too, who likes to go to protests, who likes to demonstrate, who likes to host a sit-in here on campus, it's really important to express your frustration, to express your concerns, and to encourage, your friends, your neighbors, your whoever it might be that you're close to, just, being vocal and sharing that frustration, whether you're in agreement with something or you're not. It's important to always voice that concern.
Where do you see yourself after retirement?
After retirement, I don't ever see myself retiring because I love to be busy. I'm always out and about doing something. I started a Girl Scout troop with one of my former colleagues, and so for me, I can't emphasize enough how much I care about my community work. And so when I retire, I hope to be able to continue that work, whether I'm volunteering as a Lions Club member or volunteering at a local homeless shelter. I don't see myself ever really retiring because that's just not in my nature. That's not who I am. And I just will always see myself, being a busybody doing something.
What would you like your legacy to be?
I think just being a community advocate and having my family, generations that come after me, knowing that I was able to break a glass ceiling and sort of help pave the way for my nieces, for my cousins, my neighbors. I see myself sort of being an individual who's been able to work towards helping the greater good, and I hope that will be my legacy. That I'm already the first in many things in my family, and I just hope to be able to leave that and set the example for my, whether if I end up having children or whatever it might be, just knowing that I set the pace and the standard for my family.
Everybody has that one class they struggled with the most, or they disliked it the most.
Mm-hmm.
What was that class like for you, and what tips do you have for people right now that are going through that class they just don't like?
For me, I have to think about this one a little bit because there was never really a class that I didn't like, that I didn't learn from. I think for me, it was just being optimistic and understanding that, maybe it was just a prereq class that I just like did not want to deal with. I think it was like geography, and I had to learn, no, it was either geography or astronomy, and I had to have this software program installed in my laptop, and I had to be able to read constellations. I think getting through something just corny like that, I think just work through it and don't look to the negative, just look to the positive, and just, pursue it and just, own it. Own that class, whether it's a really hard biology or biochemistry class. Just own the class as best as you can, no matter how difficult it is, and don't think of that class in any negative sense.
Tips for people that would like to have the same career as you.
I think it's really important to get involved now. There isn't a more trying time than right now to get involved in, be it a local campaign, volunteering with like a local nonprofit that aligns with your platform, whether it's, you care about feminism or helping, low-income students pursue higher ed, or, helping youth that are possibly homeless, whatever cause you care about, find out how you can get involved in that cause. And like I said, if it's like a local nonprofit that you really want to get involved in, reach out to whoever it is that you find would be willing to give you a chance to intern, whether it's the admin assistant that answers the phones, or the director of government affairs, or if it's the CEO of the nonprofit. Make it a point to reach out to them. Don't be afraid, don't be shy, don't second guess yourself, because I think for me that was something that I embedded in myself early on when I wanted to work in this in broadcast. I made it a point to throw myself out there, share my resume, share my skill sets with individuals, and it opened up a lot of opportunities for me. And I think that students cannot be fearful when it comes to wanting to pursue, work experience or gain any type of credible experience, be it in any given realm of work. And so I share that with students all the time, and I think that that's really important, to be able to just, throw your name out there, network with an individual if an opportunity presents itself to go to a community event or whatever it might be. Just get involved in as many ways as you can, because if you want to pursue working in this realm, it's really important to have a good grasp and understanding of not only just local issues, but knowing who the key players are in a given issue area, whether that's in immigration or education or union work. It's really important to know your gatekeepers, your stakeholders, and just that community as a whole that's involved in that particular realm of work that you want to get involved in.
Cool. I think it's very unique that you were able to go into journalism, and then found a way to do other stuff. Because I'm actually debating on a minor, because like I took a bunch of radio television courses at community college, and then all of a sudden I was applying here, and I was like, okay, well, journalism was like the closest thing here. And then it's something because I found out about the film electronic media minor, and I have a lot of units in like radio, TV, but it's something because I also had a guy in an AA in social behavioral sciences. So my career counselor was like, you will have a side that loves media, but you have a side that likes to help people and understand people. So right now, like at first I was like, wow, the film minor sounds so cool. But my advisor's like, think about the fact that you already have the media studies. You already done that. You already got that background. But you have the other AA. It's about the mind. And he's like, look at your units that have transferred over. And he's like, why don't you think about family studies? And I'm like, what can we do with family studies? So right now, that's what I don't really
grappling,
know.
kind of,
Yeah,
trying to figure out.
yeah, he's like, you should think about it because you already have some units that already count towards it, and it's a lower unit minor. So I'm like,
And you should pursue it because it would open up many options for you when you complete your education here. I recommend that, you know, you consider the minor. If you already have more than half the credits, why not? It'll make you a unique applicant when you come out into the workforce and you want to, you know, maybe pursue something in social behavioral, you know, work. That's definitely something that you can utilize to your benefit.
how can people contact you? Is there an email or something?
You can follow me on social media. My Instagram is at BigIrmsReloaded.
Spell it.
BIGIRMZRELOADED.
Cool. How can one market themselves, build themselves like a brand, build themselves in a professional image to where, you know, they'll be taken serious and stuff like that?
I think it's really important to monitor what you have on your social media. You know, whether you're looking for a job and you want to polish up your resume, you can easily do that now with something like LinkedIn. You can develop your own website and link your social media handles onto that website so you can show individuals your LinkedIn profile. If you are, you know, maybe pursuing photography, you can upload your photography work. If you're maybe studying architecture, you can show draft plans that you've created. There's so many ways now with social media with how you can share your vision, your brand, and sort of have those elements reflected in all realms of your social media, whether it's your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, even your Snapchat. I think, you know, sort of having that similar message across all platforms is really important. And so I think that's the best way to build out your brand is developing a website for yourself and making sure that it links back to your social media accounts and it's reflective of the work that you're pursuing.
And how about, you know, blogs and stuff? And, you know, for those that aren't familiar, what is LinkedIn anyways?
I think, well, blogs are another really great way to promote your work. Like if you're pursuing writing, or if you want to be a stylist, you can, you know, easily upload the outfits that you want to share on Pinterest. Or LinkedIn is really great because you can look at an individual's profile. It's almost like a virtual resume, and so you can see the individual's interests, what their strong skill sets are, where they've, you know, their work history, who finds them credible in the specific skill sets that they list. It's almost like a Facebook, but like a work-related Facebook.
And so, what would you say to people that they're still debating on what they want to do? Sometimes people change their major a lot, and you know, they're still thinking about, you know, they're searching for what is it that's their true calling and stuff.
For those that are still trying to figure it out, I just, you know, want to emphasize that they're not alone. There's a lot of individuals that are sort of stuck contemplating figuring out what they want to do, and even for those who have already obtained their degree and are like maybe in their mid-careers, oftentimes, you know, people always change and change what they want to pursue. And if you're sort of in that trying time right now, just trying to get by and not really understand or know what you want to pursue later on, I think it's just important to find something you like. And if you like more than one thing, see if you can make it work to where it could maybe be like a minor like you shared earlier. I think just, you know, not necessarily, you know, switching your major too much to where it sort of jeopardizes your ability to graduate college, but just work through it as best as you can to find something you like. And if it doesn't work out, know that there's always the option to find something else or to pursue something else.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to our last minute. Any closing statement?
I just want to say good luck to all of the Cal State Long Beach students pushing through finals this week. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. This concludes this episode of The Golden Spotlight.